Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Muhammad ALIF bin TENGKU HAMZAH, metric number 280534. We are from Group 5. We will be discussing about the differences between activity-based costing and traditional costing. Okay, for today's agenda, we will talk about activity-based costing and also traditional costing. So first of all, we will describe the definition between these two costing. Secondly, we will identify the differences between activity-based costing and also traditional costing. Thirdly, we will determine the advantage and also the disadvantage of implementing activity-based costing and also traditional costing. Last but not least, we will show you on how to calculate from using activity-based costing and also traditional costing. Activity-based costing is a method that allocates overhead costs by assigning them to activities performed to produce goods or deliver services. ABC was defined in the late of 1980 by Kaplan and also Bruns. ABC can be considered as the modern absorption costing, which allowing the managers to better understand of the product and the consumer net profitability. ABC also provides more accurate cost information to managers through allocation of activity costs to products and services by applying cost drivers, which will lead to more accurate pricing decisions. So the activity-based costing process flow is, firstly, you will need to identify the costs that take place in your organization. So the number of activities in production may be different from product to product and organization to organization. So the next step is you need to determine the cost pools. So cost pool means grouping of a total cost for each activity. It simply means you allocate a various cost to a particular activity or a group of activities. The next step is you will need to determine the cost driver for each major activity. So this means that the cost drivers will act as a factor or an event which results in consequential change in the total cost of the object. The next step is you will need to calculate the activity cost driver rate. So since we have grouped our activity, then we will need to identify the rate for each group. So usually the activity driver rate is you will need to total cost of an activity and then divide with the cost driver. And the last step is you need to charge activity cost to the product cost. So since we have identified the rate for each activity, then the cost of activity will be charged to the product using the cost driver rate according to the requirement of activities of each product. So the example of company that implement this ABC costing system such as Coca-Cola. So we know that Coca-Cola is a huge company which the product is marketed globally. So Coca-Cola company uses activity-based costing to determine its price point. So since Coca-Cola is offering a large portfolio of products and carries a huge amount of inventory, which can be a significant portion of production cost that is often overlooked. So Coca-Cola used this ABC to evaluate the differences between its bigger worldwide products and its specialty regionalized products that it may not offer on the global market. So by understanding this, we can see how production costs are different between established, familiar types. The specialized types will enable them to set a price points in each market that will ensure them a significant profit. Traditional costing allocates factory overhead based on the volume of production resources consumed. Conventionally, it applied based on either the number of direct labor hours consumed or machine hours used. Therefore, they are unable to provide accurate measurement of activity performance and any information regarding value-added activities. As a consequence, poor pricing decision will be made due to inaccurate or overlooked information regarding product cost. So as a conclusion, we can say that traditional costing is more often used by the micro entrepreneurs or SMEs, and ABC system more or often used in a large company.
Okay, next I will discuss the difference between ABC and traditional costing. The first one is primary focus. The primary focus of traditional costing is the apportionment of overhead costs to the activity of production. Irrespective of the special allocation of resource, traditional costing set a single metric for every activity involved in production and allocated costs based on the consumption of the metric. Although ABC costing is also used for a cost allocation, but it adopts a different approach. Under ABC, appropriate cost drivers are determined for every different activity and costs in then allocated according to the cost driver. The second one is application. Traditional costing methods is easy to implement as a single cost driver is set for all activity and overheads are simply divided into fixed and variable overhead. Activity-based costing is difficult to implement because it involves choosing a suitable basis of assumption and absorbing overhead on that same basis is a complication and time-consuming exercise. Additionally, in some cases, it's become difficult to determine a proper basis for the allocation of an activity. The third one is cost. Traditional costing can only be used for the assumption of manufacturing overhead, but activity-based costing can effectively be used to allocate the manufacturing as well as non-manufacturing overheads like selling, administration, and others. This is because ABC considers the actual sentence of cost for the period cost and then allocated it. Besides that, the management use also the differences between traditional costing and ABC. The figure extracted by traditional costing can be included into cost figure of statement of profit or loss because it only incorporates product cost, but ABC can only be used for management purposes. The main reason being ABC is based on the subjectivity of the user, and two users may not find a cost matrix suitable for the same activity. However, activity-based costing can be actively used by the management of a company to make better costing pool and allocate the pros more correctly. Last but not least, the effectiveness of operation also showing the difference between traditional costing and activity-based costing. Activity-based costing improving business process in long term. This is because management of a company need to invest deeply into production activity and related costs. This highlights the reason for certain costs being incurred, which can ultimately help control and manage these costs. Traditional costing do not compel management to look for different costing centers, and so it becomes difficult for management to gather incremental data about production activity. Now I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is SABRINA binti Maisa. My metric number is 272360. I would like to explain the advantages of ABC and traditional costing. Okay, for the advantages of ABC, the first one is accurate product cost. ABC provides precision and dependability in the estimation of product costs with an emphasis of the source and impact the cost. It recognizes that there are costs in use activities and not goods, and there are goods that consume activities. ABC offers more realistic product prices in a modern manufacturing environment and technology where overhead support services are a major proportion of the overall cost. In case of more variation between items such as low volume item and high volume item, ABC delivers dependable and prices product cost data. Okay, the second one is information about cost behavior. ABC identifies the true nature of cost behavior and contributes the cost reduction and the identification of activities that add value to the product. With ABC, manager may control several fixed overhead expenses by controlling the action that resulted in these fixed overhead expenses. This is achievable because the behavior of many fixed overhead expenses is now more observable and transparent. Okay, the third one is tracing of activity for the cost object. ABC has made cost drivers, many of which are focused on transaction rather than product quantities. In addition, ABC deals with all operation inside and outside the operation to track the overhead of the goods. For advantages of traditional costing, the first one is it offers accurate cost figures with large production volumes. The conventional costing approach is best used if there are minimal administrative expenditures in an organization compared to direct production expenses. When big quantities and overhead expenses do not make a substantial impact when calculating costs, the amount is correct and may subsequently be applied to the completed products or services at a rate. The second one is it is cheap to implement. There are no sophisticated calculation or documents needed to calculate the typical costing technique for an average overhead rate. All have to do is determine how long it takes to create or supply a single service for a certain product. Then take the average cost per hour of labor or of usage by machinery and multiply it by the time needed to produce sellable products and services. Okay, the third one is it creates reports which are easier to understand. When attempting to evaluate what items or services provide a firm with the optimum profit ratios, external prefer to apply the conventional costing approach. This computation is generally simpler to read and comprehend since it puts everything into a category of dollars and cents. The conventional costing method allows investors, workers, and other interested parties to grasp some of the fundamentals of the financial image of a firm. The activity based on pricing of external report cannot be utilized correctly because of the various rate of activity involved.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is ANNUR DINI BINTI EZANI. My matrix number is 280290. Would like to present about disadvantage of traditional costing. The first point is it offers limited accuracy even in the best of situation. Traditional costing may work when there are a handful of products being manufactured with low overhead costs. It does not offer the same accuracy when trying to look at the actual expenses that are incurred by an organization. It tends to distort the actual expense looking at the profitability of product or service by arbitrarily assigning costs for all activities instead of considering the cost of each action required to bring the product to sale. The second point is its simplicity may be too simple. The modern business must analyze non-manufacturing costs as part of their overall accounting process. It must evaluate the vast variety of expenses that are associated with an offer of numerous products or services. You cannot receive that information from the traditional costing system. Although the calculations are easy and the information is easy to convey to others, the overall lack of data is limiting to organizations which offer numerous items for sale. The third point is it wants to ignore unexpected circumstances. Any unanticipated expenses are ignored when the traditional costing system is used. That is because the overall average is factored into the product. It may cost an organization more to manufacture goods or provide services after the first projections are made, and there is no way for this accounting system to take that into account. When companies dig into their raw figures for detailed data, they might find that their products or services earn a lot less than they anticipated at the end of the year. Now, we will see about disadvantage of ABC. The first point is expensive and complex. ABC has numerous cost pools and multiple cost drivers and therefore can be more complex than traditional product costing system. It can prove costly to manage ABC system. The second point is selection of drivers. Some difficulties emerge in the implementation of ABC system, such as selection of cost drivers, assignment of common costs, varying cost drivers rates, and so on. The third point is disadvantages to smaller firms. ABC has different levels of utility for different organizations, such as large manufacturing firm can use it more usefully than the smaller firms. Also, it is likely that firms depending on cost plus pricing can take advantages from ABC, as it gives accurate product costs, but those firms who use market-based price may not favor ABC. The level of technology and manufacturing environment prevailing in different firms also affect the application of ABC.
My name is Ng Su Yin, number metric 279722. Now I will discuss the method to calculate the traditional costing and activity-based costing. These two costing systems are calculated in different ways. In traditional costing, we use only one plant-wide overhead rate to calculate the overhead cost. Normally, the managerial accountant will use unit-based driver to allocate the overhead cost, which is machine hour or direct labor hour, as the overhead allocation base. Plant-wide overhead rate is calculated using total overhead cost divided by total machine hour or direct labor hour. After getting the rate, we will assign the overhead cost for each product. On the other hand, an activity-based costing ABC system is using multiple activity rate. ABC is a method of assigning indirect cost to product based on the activity required. It can be said that each activity cost pool has their own measure. To implement ABC system, first we must define the activity cost pool and their measure. For instance, the inspection activity is calculated based on the inspection hour. Then we assign the overhead cost to activity cost pool and calculate the activity rate. For example, we use the overhead cost of inspection divided by the total inspection hour to get the overhead rate. Then we assign the overhead cost to the cost object. Now we can make a comparison for unit cost between traditional costing and ABC. Since traditional costing is using one plant-wide rate on budgeted overhead, it will be easier to implement. But it has its disadvantages, where it is less accurate when we calculated the overhead cost compared to ABC system, where the ABC system is difficult to implement. It has considered manufacturing and non-manufacturing costs. We need to track the amount of quantity or hours spent on each activities. By using this method, we can get more accurate costs as the products are charged on the capacity used. And the unused capacity cost will be treated as period expenses. Besides that, certain products require more hours or more quantity than others. So, through the ABC method, we know what costs are driven in the activity, and it would lead to a best decision making. That's all from me. Thank you.